Hey friends, what's up? Welcome to the Godspeed Garage. Today is the start of a new build. It's a 1929 Dodge, and you're going to help me build it. Your opinion matters. Here it is, 1929 Dodge. Some pretty rough shape, but it's gonna make a pretty cool rat rod. As you can see, I've been greasing down the hinges with penetrating fluid, trying to get stuff to break loose. 80-some years old, rust. And there it is. These fenders are gonna go. They're getting hacked off right now. No need for fenders on a hot rod, right? I think this thing has been in a fire though. Judging by these handles, they're melted off, as you can see. That one. There's the dash. It's all burned out. It's all gone. I try to find new gauges. No glass. Lots of pine needles. It's even got some bullet holes. So that's pretty cool. Sorry about the shaky camera. I'm trying to do this from an iPad. But yeah, gotta pound some dents out. The plan is to seal the interior once I get everything welded up and done. With some POR. And then I'm just gonna matte clear the outside. I like the matte finish because it looks like there's no clear coat on it, but it'll protect it from the weather. Anyway, another project. Alright, I got the fenders off. And I got one door to open so far. All those latches are rusted solid. But good news is those hinges weren't stuck at all. Starting to look more like a hot rod. No fenders on it. There they are over there. Got the springs out, the back seat, and there's the back panel for the front seat that I think I'm going to use. Maybe clean it up a bit. But, yeah. I had to heat these nuts and bolts up pretty good to get them to break loose. Kind of amazingly though, most of them didn't break, they actually came loose. For how rusty it is, I thought that was pretty crazy how they came loose. Anyway, I'm gonna build some braces for this dolly it's sitting on so I can straighten the body out, because what I figured out was whoever had it before me, I don't know if you're going to be able to tell, but whoever had it before me, if they took it off the frame, you can see how this side over here is actually leaning in. So this whole bottom side on the passenger side over here is going to need to be pushed out quite a bit. I think this side's okay, however, this bottom piece down here is pretty banged up, and I don't know if the metal's thick enough for me to weld on. That's the problem. So I'm gonna have to figure something out, but I'll get it done. A lot of work, good times. These are the brackets I made to attach the body to the dolly. Just bent up some rebar and welded some tubes on there, and I got it level to the dolly so that it's gonna help me actually sort of straighten out the body. I'm actually gonna do some similar braces on the front. I'm gonna use those the body mounts that are actually on the Dodge body itself. and do a cross member and then weld up some more of these braces for the front end to try to straighten that out as well.
Just chilling on my porch with Bob Marley, talking about the difference between Jah and Yahweh. Two worlds collide as our hearts coincide. Guitar serenade, singing Africa unite. My heart breaks stride as the rain subsides. Thinking about my life and love in these times. We had no clue how hard life would get, but on one thing our hearts were set. And under these skies and under these times, sharing all the love from the God Most High, hoping in things.
So I'm finally getting around to busting out some of these screws. As you can see, most of them are breaking off, but I still have a few I need to bust out of there. There's a whole bunch of screws, and they're all flatheads. This side, they pretty much all busted off. Some of them I had to actually cut out with the old plasma cutter. What I've done was I went and soaked the crap out of them with PB Blaster, and I've got this stuff. And I've got the Deep Creep, which is another brand. Pretty much all do the same thing, but soak them with that stuff and then heat them up with a torch. The MAP gas. And then I have this tool. Where'd it go? There it is. I have this tool here, which some maybe old timers might know. This is basically sort of a helps bust loose stuck bolts and screws and stuff. You put it on there and you twist it and you whack the crap out of it with a hammer, and it's supposed to, as you hammer down, it's supposed to put some torque and twist the bolt or screw or whatever off. As you can see, I got the enforcer here, the BFH, and it's supposed to break them loose, but being 90 something years old, even with all of that stuff, the screws just are rusted in there so much that you can't really get enough threads to get them off. Miraculously, I did get a couple of them to actually thread out, but trying to not break as many as possible. I've got a few down there to do, especially these ones that go to like the door handle. That's the door handle there. There's the window mechanism there. I'm trying to save those so I don't have to drill them out and re-tap them. But my plan is I'm gonna do a lot of reinforcing in here, and this metal is so thin that I'm kind of a little nervous to weld too much on it. Plus, when you weld on it, it kind of burns through, and I like the rust on the outside especially. I like that look. It took 90 years almost to look this good. So anyway, so I thought I could just bolt a plate in place of these screws, but I might have to end up actually tacking a plate there so I can put some bracing in here. Problem is, this thing's in really rough shape. It's all twisted and bent, as you can see. Look at those two posts. It's pretty bent up, but yeah, so I'm gonna have to brace it and kind of square it up and get this thing back in line, and then hopefully it'll be straight enough when I pop it on my chassis. It'll actually look right and not look like it's going down the road crooked or cattywampus or whatever. Anyway, still lots of work to do. I'm going to try to get that dash out of there. As you can see there, it's just those two screws that I lubed up and heated up, and I'm going to try to not break those screws off. If I do, I'll have to drill them out. No big deal. We'll make it work. That's what hot rodding's all about. Figuring it out and making it work. So if I can get that dash off, then I can actually get that cleaned up and get it sealed up and get those gauges out and get some new gauges in there, new old gauges. I gotta fix that spot right there where somebody plasma cutted not very good. They didn't even try to get straight or anything, but they plasma cut it off the steering column, it looks like. Because back in the day it was easier to get this body off the chassis. It was easier just to cut out the steering column and lift it off than it was to actually detach it from the frame and everything. But anyway, if any of you guys have any idea a better way of getting those old rusted screws out than soaking them with penetrating fluid and heating them up and using that old tool to whack them out, let me know. I'm always learning, always figuring out new ways to do things. I was able to get this dash bezel off. Those screws on the end here that I heat up and hit with the penetrating fluid, they actually came out pretty easy. They're just they have the threads like kind of like a wood screw, and they just came out super easy. These screws right here that hold the kind of the trim piece on are actually brass, and those came out really easy too. As you know, brass doesn't rust, so they came out really easy. They are a fine thread, and I put them back in the threads there just so I don't lose them, so they don't grow legs and walk off in my garage somewhere. So now here's the debate, and I'd love for all of you to weigh in on it. Since that part right there is hacked out, I'm gonna have to cut it more square and clean it up, because you can't really weld to plasma cutting. I'm gonna have to weld a new piece in there, and because I need to weld a new piece in there, it's gonna be new metal on old metal, and I'm also going to have to brace up underneath here so I have good support for my steering column, because you don't want something critical like your steering to be flimsy. So I'm gonna have to weld in some support and some bracing in there. The debate is, do I paint this? I like the rusty look, but I kind of would like to make the interior nice and leave the weathered, rusty look for the exterior. Because it took a long time to look this good, and that is rust made by nature, not painted on or faux patina or whatever the crap they call that. So once I paint over it, it's kind of a done deal. So I don't know. The other thought, or the other plan, is maybe just I leave it like it is, and you know, after I drive it, if I decide that I don't like the Frankenstein patch that I'm going to put in there, then maybe I can decide to paint it, but I don't. You guys can help me decide. The other dilemma is this piece here, the trim piece I took off the dash, has this dent in it, which is kind of cool. It gives it some character, and I kind of like it. But on the windshield piece here, where the dent was, or where the dent on the bezel lines up, right here, you can see it's bent in. So I'm definitely going to have to flatten this so that any windshield I put on here is actually going to flatten or seal shut, so you don't get wind noise, and if it happens to rain, you don't get water all up in there. So the debate is, do I pound that out and fix it? Do I leave it? Or do I pound it out just enough to where it's going to actually sit flat on the windshield? Let me know. Post your opinion in the comments, and we'll make it work. So, is it a hot rod? Is it a rat rod? The term rat rod is kind of like a dirty word or a gimmick. People consider rat rods not really to be hot rods. They're more like art cars. You know, there's this debate, rat rod versus hot rod. What is it? Back in the 40s and the 50s, when guys coming out of the war were actually starting to find these old Model A's, Model T's in the junkyards or in the field somewhere, and they just wanted to build something that went fast, that gave them that adrenaline rush that they had flying bombers in the war. And back then, when people started calling them hot rods, they didn't like that term. To them, the term hot rod, very much like today, the term rat rod, was actually something that kind of, you know, it meant that it was just thrown together without any care and just wasn't a very reliable car. And so when the term hot rod came out, they rejected it. They didn't like that term. So, I mean, today, sort of the same thing. The term rat rod has been applied to any car that looks unfinished or has patina or is rusty or even has a primered finish. They're just kind of all lumped together and called rat rods. You know, what I would consider a rat rod, which is something that somebody built that they used parts off of various things, maybe things that don't even belong on a car, and they made something, they repurposed it to make it work with their car. You know, it is sort of an art car, and it's in my opinion, it's really cool to see somebody's personality, somebody's art, somebody's you know, what they saw and they created. And that to me is cool. I mean, that's sort of an area of hot rodding and building cars that is unique. Whereas to me, a hot rod is something that somebody built to be fast, to go drag racing, to give them that adrenaline rush, maybe like a big motor or whatever. You can be a traditionalist, you can be a purist, you can build it as a 50s era hot rod, and that's totally cool. I have appreciation for that, big time. However, I think that for us in the car community to sort of put down what people are doing, it's sort of limiting your ideas of what can be done. In my mind, as long as it's safe, as long as it's drivable, the sky's the limit. That's what they did in the 40s. They found whatever they could find from various cars and junkyards and parts and pieces, and they built these cars that were fast and lightweight. They stripped them down. They did whatever they could to make their car their car. And most of them were unique. Yeah, a lot of them followed sort of the same thing. Once somebody figured out that, hey, this is gonna work, then a lot of people followed that. So do what you want as long as it's safe. I heard from a lot of old hot rod guys, there's two things you never mess with: steering and brakes. If you can't steer, you're in trouble. If you can't stop, you're in trouble. Never mess with those two systems. Have fun, enjoy it, drive it, don't trailer it, use it, make it yours, make it unique. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Subscribe, comment, like, share with your friends, all of that good stuff. More videos to come. Help me out. Let me know what you guys think, which way I should go with this guy here.
We were listening to Sublime all night, and we didn't have a fuss and no fight. And we play our acoustic guitars with all the people passing by in their cars. And we were listening to Sublime all night, and we didn't have a fuss people stumbling out. Oh.